I've been given a rather large pile of black walnut cutoffs. Anywhere from small pieces to larger chunks, pieces of that nature. Some of them taper, shorter chunks, longer chunks. Now I have to figure out what to do with them. There's a lot of wood there. I'm gonna have to do some sorting and measuring to see what kind of lengths and widths I can get. I did some measurements on my wood pieces, and it seems like we fall into a couple categories: 1x1s, 2x1s, and 1.5x1. I'm going to separate the pile first and get them into respective groups before I decide how I want to clean them up. I separated my pile. Here are my pieces that are 2 inches or so wide and 1 inch in thickness. I have a pile of 1x's, 2x2s, 2x1s, the heavier pieces. Next thing I have to do is go through them and trim them up and cut off the unusable pieces. There are a lot of pieces that taper like this. I'm going to have to cut this end off. That's just a knot. We need to remove that. Places where we have big splits and tapering. So I'll go through and clean this wood up, and then we'll see what kind of piles we have when we're finished. A larger stock pile and sorted it. Over here I have pieces I'm going to cut to 1.75, 1.5, 1.25, and 1 inch. Cleaned up that one pile. This is now all 1 1/2. The material I had set for 1 3/4 just wasn't quite big enough, so I cut it down to 1.5, 1 1/4, and 1 inch. For that tall pile, we've got 1 3/4, 1 1/2, and 1 inch wood stock. Not surprising, a lot of this thinner stock has several curves to it. I don't know if you can see that or not, but it's probably got a 4-inch bow across it. I would imagine a fair pile of this is going to end up just being scrap timber. Here's all the usable pieces that I got out of that last pile. I knew they were thin. I knew that probably a lot of them would have a lot of bow and curvature to them after I pulled them out of the pile at the lumber yard. I was hoping for a little more, but hey, did the best I could. This is my scrap pile that I'm throwing out. It's a wheelbarrow, standard size wheelbarrow, piled way too high. I'll have to take pieces off to get it to the burn pile. My final piles. This is my 1 inch stock. This is 1 1/4, 1 1/2, and 1 3/4. Now I have one dimension under control. I have to work on the other one, so I end up with S4S lumber. Okay, here's my thicker stock. All my big pieces greater than 1 inch. When done, it is 7 inches high, 7 inches wide, and 6 feet long on the average. It's quite a lot of black walnut ready for use. It's all S4S. Now we've got all this material to S4S level, we need to proceed with our project. We are making an extremely large cutting board. It's going to be 24 inches wide, 4 feet long, and 1.5 inches thick. I've cut my 4-foot long sides and my 2-foot short sides. I put some double sticky tape on them. I'm going to stick the frame together until I can figure out exactly how I want to piece the center part in. Now that I have my exterior dimensions set pretty well with sticky tape, I can go ahead and figure out how I'm going to use my black walnut to fill in the center and give it an exquisite pattern. Pretty much determined my pattern. I'm going to have edge grain and then a 2-inch section end grain, another edge grain, 2-inch section of end grain. I've got my 1x1 stock, which is S4S from the material that we pulled off. I'm going to glue that up and then cut 1 1/8 inch strips off of these and put them in strips. Glue ups for my end grain boards. I made 3 different sizes. This one is 6 inches with 6 1x1s. I made a 5-inch one with 5 1x1s, and then a 3-inch wide one with 3 1x1s. Hopefully this combination will do me well when I go to fill in all the spaces. I have my saw sled set for a depth of 1 1/8 of an inch. Let's go about cutting our blocks. Here are all of my block pieces cut. I kept them in the sequence that they were cut. That way when I put them in there, I can get the same pattern all the way up and down the side of the butcher block. I cut enough blocks for the first 2 rings, which is what I wanted to do. I've staggered the joints so that we get a little more stability here. I'll have to cut my inside piece here, glue all these together before I move on to my next ring. I needed to make up more strips as I expected I would. This time I made them much longer, made them 9.5-inch strips, and then some 4s and a couple odd pieces. I now have 2 full strips. My last piece is gluing. 2 full runs all the way across and around. Gonna do the 3rd set, and then I'm gonna put in a solid border. I have my first 3 rows of end grain blocks. I've cut 4 solid pieces to go all the way around. I'm gonna glue those in and then put more of the end grain blocks on the inside. Our butcher block is coming together nicely. We have 3 rows of end grain, 2 rows of end grain. Now I'm going to put another solid strip in between them. On these long runs that I'm doing right now for the edge grain, it takes a lot of clamps to keep everything in place so it's firm and nice and square. I only have one more side to go, and then I'll be ready to cut my new set of end grain blocks to fill in the center. I've done my calculations. I have a 22-inch long, and these blocks are These blocks are 1.5-inch square. There are 6 of them. Figure that'll get me down my board in about 4 pieces. I should have enough. Before completing the center, I decided to run this through my drum sander just to take down any of the real high spots so I don't have to do it all at one time. I do have a couple low spots right there that I'll have to take out, and another one down in here. But other than that, it looks very nice. I'm pleased with it. Now we'll have to finish off the last piece here in the center. I will show you how we're going to do that in a bit. Digging through my black walnut pile, I found a true 2x4, cleaned it down, and it's pretty close to 2x4 inches. We're going to cut these into 1 1/8 inch slices and lay those in the centerpiece here as an end grain. Centerpiece that I cut off of the 2x4s. I'm going to glue them up separately first, and then after they're glued, then I will glue them together as a single unit. In order to keep my blocks from slipping side to side, I had to clamp them across the top first and then do the compression on the sides. But they seem to be holding. There's a little slip, maybe a 32nd of an inch. I'll just sand that off when I go to fit them all together. My center blocks are now glued up. I made sure that the correct match is there. I used my parallel clamp to hold them together. I'm also going to put a vertical clamp on them. This second clamp will keep that board from curving up. Even though they're parallel, it still has a tendency to push the blocks in this direction. So we'll just clamp them down to make sure. Parallel clamp on the outside. These vertical ones. It's all clamped down to an MDF board, so I know it's nice and flat. All the way down to, I put the end pieces in, they fit nicely. And then I went and looked at this compared to my straight edge, and I do have a bow into it. It's only about a 1/16 of an inch. I'm going to use my router with the straight edge on it to clean that up so that the sideboard fits flush. Otherwise, I'd have big gaps on both sides, and I don't want to compress my wood and bend it. Okay, put in my first long strip plus the center. I got some nice glue squeeze out, so I know I got good compression. The last thing is going to be getting this one in. That's going to be tricky. I didn't quite think this one all the way through, but this one's just going to have to slide in. Just going to have to make sure it fits very snugly. Here's my final gap I have to fill. It is almost 1 7/16 of an inch across. I'm going to make my board a little more than 1 7/16, and then I'm going to put a 1/2 degree taper on it so that it will sit down into here, allow the glue to stick, and then I'll just take it off with my hand plane. Okay, I have a 1/2 degree taper on both sides so that it sits down in there to start with. This board is thicker than the actual table, the top itself. What we're going to do is pound this board, well, not pound it, use the rubber mallet, tap it in until the top is flush and the bottom will be proud. We'll let the glue dry, flip it over, and then I'll take my hand plane and I will plane off this bottom surface that's proud of the bottom. It's probably going to be about 1/8 of an inch or so, but that's okay. My hand plane will make quick work of it. There. It's probably a 32nd of an inch over on the top, which is fine. We'll get that on the drum sander. Okay, we've put all the wood in. Now it's time to get to the drum sander and sand this down so that it's level on both faces. Both sides are flat, sanded to 80 grit. I need to change my sanding belt to 120. Made a simple jig out of an old piece of plywood. Old piece of 1x, and then routed out hand holes on both sides of this big board. My butcher block is flat for my drum sander. Now I need to do some water pop. I sanded it on the drum sander to 100 grit. We're going to be using Rubio Monocoat, and they recommend going to 120. So I do a couple of water pops, a couple of sands at 120, and then we'll be ready for the finish. Normally I wouldn't put this much water on the board for a water pop. I think it'll be interesting to see what it looks like. Here's the top to our butcher block. I've used Rubio Monocoat for it. It's a 3-to-1 mixture. And all we have to do is spread it out. Monocoat directions, let it sit for 3 to 4 minutes, wipe off all the excess. Here's our final configuration. It's been waxed with Rubio Monocoat. It's been buffed and polished. End grain stands out beautifully. I couldn't have asked for better butcher block top. If you're enjoying my videos, please subscribe to my channel. And once again, thank you for watching.